All right, hello, and welcome to the third part of our series. And today we'll be talking about DYAR, and that's an acronym for Defense Adjusted Yards Above Replacement. So you remember the last video, we talked about DVOA. And a quick recap, that is a measure of how good a player or a team is, depending on the situation. So it looks just beyond raw numbers. But there is, so DVOA is not a perfect stat. And where this ends up being true, that it's not perfect, is when you look at players who are quote-unquote workhorses. So players who run a lot of plays tend to score not as highly in DVOA as players who don't run as many plays but are very successful in the few plays that they do run. So how does DYAR fix that? So there are going to be two cases for this one: quarterbacks and all other players. So to figure out DYAR, you have to look at the name. You can see that yards above replacement, the last three words. And so we need to define what a replacement is for these statistics. So the quarterback is the easiest position to do this for because for essentially every team, only one QB will take snaps in the game. So to figure out what a replacement is, you end up having to take the average stats of the replacement quarterbacks, so backup quarterbacks, quarterbacks that are in because the starter's injured or because it's late in the game. In doing this, you set some sort of baseline with enough data that you can account for essentially every situation a quarterback is faced with. And then, just like DVOA, we're accounting for situations. And so using the baseline and the same sort of process as DVOA, you figure out how better in raw numbers, essentially, a quarterback would do. So let's say a replacement player threw for 3,000 yards. And we would take, say, Tom Brady would throw for 4,000 yards in the same situations. So we would say Tom Brady is 1,000 yards, or has a DYAR of 1,000 yards. This is easy for QBs to figure out what the replacement level is. But for other positions, it's a little more difficult because players rotate in and out. So several players will get around 30% of snaps in any given game. So there's a different methodology used to figure out what defines replacement. So again, unlike quarterbacks, there isn't one starter, one backup. Several players will cycle in. So how you calculate the replacement value, you look at the 10% of, or bottom 10% of players in terms of plays at that position. So this means you look at the players who play in these positions the fewest amount of times, fewest number of plays, and so they can be assumed to be quote-unquote replacement. So this bottom 10% becomes the replacement, and the other 90% of attempts of players who play that position, their bases are formed against that. And so it's similar, again, to the QB. We look at how each position would perform relative to the replacement, keeping in mind situation, similar process as DVOA, and again we'll end up with some number of yardage. So if we have a running back that, or a replacement of a running back, they're determined to run 800 yards. In the same situation, starting running back runs 1,200 yards. We say the starting running back is 400 yards above replacement. And so I hope this explains what DYAR is. And we hope that you enjoy the rest of the series. Be sure to check out the rest of the series, subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out the Center of Math website, centerofmath.org, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you.